theory from a human like perspective that's like super limited, and that's more from like an objective standpoint.
Um,
You will need to be God.
Exactly my point.
Animals would have to have in order for me to test for them, they would have to be able to be, have a concept of themselves, knowing who that they are,
Yeah, I want to know
who
how
they
you're
are.
measuring this. I want to know how you're measuring it.
Um, a mirror test, maybe?
Ants pass the mirror test.
Pardon?
Ants pass the mirror test.
Oh yeah, but that's like one of the three things they have to have. They also have to have a semantic and
Yeah, which you can't infer from the appearance of it that they actually have it.
How are you going to measure that, INTJ?
Sorry, who did you... Are you speaking to me?
He's making the joke that he is not NTJ.
Like, who is this, what's his name again? TJ?
Yeah, ENTJ.
INTJ, okay, so... But
Yeah, so
I
if I add them in the general text, when you log into your main account, you should get a notification.
I think you're just being mean now. Stop being so mean.
Yeah, we now have seen how carnism makes your brain so high on B12 that makes you claim shit like humans being so.
So how are you going to measure semantic capability and episodic?
Yeah, it's impossible.
I haven't really given that too much thought, but or let me just think about this for a while.
Yeah, I think we can just apply a reduction at this point.
I mean, if you're giving a trait stack and basing your decisions off of that trait stack, but you're failing to define what the trait stack actually implies, that sounds like you're just making decisions willy-nilly and you don't actually have an argument. I can define humanity to mean what I want it to mean. I can just say humanity is just what white people are. And that would just mean that it's okay for me to
He said humanity
kill
is
non-white
human DNA.
people.
He said humanity is human DNA.
Oh yeah, my bad. So if I say that brown people have less episodic memory and semantic faculty,
It wouldn't
That
matter
would
because
just-
he still has the trait humanity.
Oh, I think you guys might be confusing consciousness with self-awareness.
Yeah, I don't really see like yeah, I mean you can have like consciousness and not be self-aware if you're really like stupid.
Yeah, by self-awareness I basically mean knowing oneself and knowing one's character, desire, motivations and feelings. Like
Yeah, there's
basically,
like a bunch of different definitions, but like ants are self-aware. Did you know that?
yes, but they don't have to study.
Going by that like standards of self-awareness, ants are self-aware because they recognize themselves in the mirror.
Yes, but they don't have the self-awareness that I value. Like, at the beginning I said that I value a particular kind of self-awareness, which is the ability to have like you said, one of them being, being the knowing that you exist, like ants do, but also having the knowledge of one's own character, who you are as an individual, and also knowing your motivations and your desires, and being able to have episodic memories such as recollections from your
Yeah, but
past.
you're claiming that animals don't have that.
Because I haven't really seen so good evidence that they
Yeah,
have
so
that.
because you haven't seen proof that that's the case, it follows that you are like justified in believing that's not the case somehow.
Oh, no, I'm taking the null hypothesis position. So far I claim that animals have no self-awareness. But if you prove to me that animals do have the self-awareness that I value, then then animals will be valued under my ethical framework.
Well, you seem not to respect that standard when it comes to human self-awareness, and you seem not to respect that standard when it comes to solipsism. But here, you are not giving the benefit of the doubt. Seems like you're just being dishonest. You should just be like a hard skeptic.
no, because I value the kind of self-awareness that I perceive humans to have, not the kind of self-awareness that animals have. I said it like 3 times.
Yeah, but you're not explaining the difference, right? And you're not explaining why animals don't have the difference, and you couldn't possibly know. So yeah,
Um,
you're just not giving the benefit of the doubt for some reason.
I guess the difference would be kind of that animals don't have the ability to know their own. They don't have this conception of a character. They don't know about their past. They can't learn as well from their past. They can't really learn from their past the same way the humans can, I think. And they also don't have the ability to understand their desires.
Do you
Yeah,
have anything to back that up?
Don't think they do. I don't really have seen good evidence that
yeah.
they do.
You also shouldn't think that you like exist, right?
Yes, but I don't want to debate on solipsism.
Yeah, so you don't want to be shown inconsistencies in within your like epistemology for some reason.
Yes, because I'm not debating epistemology.
So like your conclusions lead you to like contradictions, but because we need to look at other fields to find the contradictions, and veganism would actually solve these contradictions, you don't want to look at them.
Oh, wait, you claim that my view has contradiction. They name like one of them.
Yeah, not giving the benefit of the doubt in analogous situations. Anyway, I'm going to go smoke some more and maybe be back.
Fucking ran away.
No, yeah.
INTJ, the position that you argued just fell apart at this point when Ricci said that you can't possibly prove that humans have the same capabilities that you mentioned in trait stack, right? However, you do apply that amount of evidence for animals but not for humans. So therefore you're in contradiction.
Wait, so
That's-
who's speaking to again?
So
To me?
if you can prove to Bleachy that humans do have that and animals don't have that, then your position would be a bit better.
Well, I'm not this guy then you mentioned. My name is. Just call me RS. Because you're just being you're just making an unsubstantiated claim about who I am. There are many people of the same force, and not this particular person you're talking about. Okay, so let's just continue the debate. So so you're basically claiming that I don't have proof that I don't extend the benefit of the doubt to the same way that I do to humans. But that's because animals don't have human level self-awareness.
Yeah, but you have to prove that, right? Like you're making a claim right now.
Well, I think,
And the point that Bleachy made would still stand, right? Like even if you know that, then cases where you don't know if certain humans have that, you will be fine with just doing to them what you do to animals. So there's two things that you need to prove in this case, not just
yes, but the thing is with animals, in order for them to really have human level self-awareness, they have to have human level intelligence, like as intelligent as the average, as intelligent enough to be as self-aware as the average normal human.
Okay, so therefore you have to show the intelligence. You have to define intelligence. 1, 2. How does the what did you mention besides intelligence?
I said that for animals to have human level self-awareness, I think that they have to have human level, at least they have to have approximately human level intelligence, like.
Yeah, so you should define what intelligence means to you. That's 1. 2. How does self-awareness follow from intelligence per se? And you'd still be stuck with the other 2 criticism that Bleachy had.
Yeah, what's the criteria for having human level intelligence to you?
In the case of animals, they have to be as smart as the average human.
So you think people who are below average and are humans are allowed to be holocausted?
No, because they're covered by my threat by my other trait, which is humanity. In order for animals to be valued by me, they have to have the intelligence level of the average human, which basically would, or the self-awareness level of the average human. But I think that self-awareness depends on intelligence to some extent.
You could still push for a less intelligent and human alien reductio in this case.
Sorry, what you say? So what shall I call you? The Big Ben? So what you
You
say?
can call me whatever you want to.
Okay,
What do you say?
so any human below the average should just be killed?
No, because the three traits. Let's say let's omit self-awareness because it's a really confusing trait. Let's just substitute self-awareness with with average human level intelligence. So when
Yeah.
a tree.
So any human below the average human intelligence.
No, because let me finish. In order for me to value a being, it has to has one of these three traits. Only one. Humanity, the intelligence level of the average human, or being able to give birth to human.
And why is humanity relevant, or what does humanity even mean?
I generally take the scientific definition of humanity, like a hominid, Homo sapiens, and just Homo sapiens, a member of the Homo sapiens species.
So how do we know if something is or is not a part of the Homo sapiens species?
I think we could generally, for us layman, non-scientists, we could just look at their phenotype.
I don't want your layman explanation. I want the one that you specifically hold to, so that when I press you, you don't have any wiggle room.
I would say they have to.
So give me your most specific and rigorous definition that I can work with.
Okay, I have the definition here. Okay, so my definition is that it has to have a human genotype, and thus human phenotype, and belong to the Homo sapiens species.
Yeah, but so what is the human genotype? How can we know if something has the human genotype versus the non-human genotype? I asked you for like a specific definition, and all you said is a human is the thing that has the human traits. Like that's all a phenotype means, is a set of particular traits.
Yeah.
But I'm asking you, what are those traits, and how can I know if something...
I guess you can just take a...
Like presumably, right, you don't think your view should have some kind of epistemic uncertainty? Like we should know what gives...
I guess you can take a DNA test. In order, if it is human DNA, like almost 100% human DNA, then I would value it.
Yeah, but what is human? How do I know the difference between a human DNA set and a non-human DNA?
I'm not really a geneticist. I can't really answer the question.
Then how do you make any decisions when you walk up to something and you say, "Look, should I stab this thing or not?" How do you know whether to give something?
I am to some extent. I am basically also a motivist. Whether I would stab something or not depends on whether I disapprove of doing so or not. So basically...
Yeah, that's A, not emotivism, and B, not informative. What it means to not want to do something is to disapprove of something. So let's keep the uninformative statements to a minimum, and let's give me a clear and concise definition that we can work with. That's going to mean that you're not drowning cats. That's going to mean that you're not torturing monkeys. It's going to mean that you're not bludgeoning aliens to death. But let's think about our view for a second. Let's think about the implications of it. Let's think about what could reasonably be defined. And then maybe, if we think about it hard enough, we'll think about what it seems to be the case, which is that moral value is more reasonably grounded in the things that are relevant to the particular act. Like, for example, maybe the fact that something has the capacity for pain, and that pain is just reducible down to a non-good action, is the reason why we shouldn't give things pain. And so, in the case of certain creatures that are capable of pain, it's just immoral to give that thing pain categorically. But given that you seem to not have that view, let's hear, again, with no uninformed and well-reasoned definitions, what you think a human.
Okay, so let's just say that a human is basically a human to me is a member of the Homo sapiens species that you can distinguish from other species by using a DNA test. That's my definition of a human. Like I don't know how I can.
A human is a human who has human DNA.
Okay, we know what a human is. Let's just not go into this autism.
So, a human is someone who has human DNA?
I said it's someone that you can genetically distinguish from other species as human. Yes. Insofar
Yeah,
as
so he has human DNA.
basically, yeah. And yeah, he's a member of Homo sapiens. Like I didn't really set up for. I wasn't really like going to debate what.
Oh no.
Criterion,
You still
right? I didn't ask you. Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Like I didn't ask you to restate the thesis. Like I'm aware that the thesis on the table is that there is a principle by which we can distinguish humans from other species. But what I didn't ask you for was to restate that thesis, especially not for you to sit there for 5 minutes and then restate the thesis. What I asked you for was a criterion that you could point to that's going to allow you to make more. So what is it that you can point to, like what measurable could you point to that's going to allow you to make this distinction? You can't just restate the thesis when I ask you for an explanation of the criterion. Like, can we cut it out with the uninformative nonsense and just get to the heart of what it is you're trying to present? Like, before you answer, what I want you to do is just say whatever sentence you thought you were going to say back to yourself 5 times and think about, does this sentence mean anything? Does this sentence answer Bryn's question? Does this sentence progress the dialectic? Does this sentence present my actual view? If any of the answers to those questions are, don't speak, and think for another 30 seconds about what kind of sentence you want to say. Because half the time in this conversation, you just say uninformative nonsense, and the other half the time, you fail to progress the dialectic.
Is he still there, or did he leave?
He just sits there thinking for like 5 minutes. I guess that's what's up right now.
Yo, Rational, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm back. Sorry. So basically,
Yo, Rational, can I just say something? It's really impolite when we open a room for you to leave the room, like, sitting here waiting, so try to be...
sorry.
Or just say I need a moment to think. That's how like other people are aware that you didn't just like fuck off.
Yeah, if you gotta think for a second, that's fine, but, like, don't just, like... I mean, if we just have no clue where you're going, it's just fine.
Okay, so what I basically base my moral decisions on in the instance of factory farms is just basically that like I can just intuitively tell if someone is human.
What do you mean intuitively?
Based on the way they look like. Like I can't.
So you think if like your mom's mind was just put in a horribly disfigured body, that just negates her moral value?
Doesn't it
what I want to be clear, right, is that it sounds like being charitable, what you just done there, is try to understanding that, I'm pushing you on the fact that your prescriptive elements are vacuous. Now you're trying to shift the conversation to a descriptive conversation where you're giving me a causal explanation for the kinds of things you do. So whether you're acting morally or immorally doesn't matter. It's just like you just think intuitively and reactively. But that's not the kind of conversation I want to be having, and it's not the kind of conversation that I think you want to be having, really, either. So what I'm asking you for is, given, we're rationalizing our actions, what is the specific criterion you could point to that would grant something value or no value? Because if we go by your current principle that it's just things that look like humans, then it means that, things that look like a human but have absolutely, zero mentality
Sounds like you
have the same moral value as any other human. And then things that don't, they look like the antithesis of a human, but are just, genius level, hyper sentient beings, like gods, but they're just in a human shell, or not a non-human shell. Those things have, zero moral value. That seems insane.
I love how it just sounds like Bryn is in this, child soldier war zone.
I'm in a vegan hypothetical.
And this is just a funny implication. You don't even have to respond to this. But if you say you can intuitively tell what's human, are you telling me that if we have some pea zombie robot that looks just like a human, you can tell that's not actually a human? That's hilarious. That's a ridiculous claim to me.
Well, he seemed to imply it was purely aesthetic, right?
I'd love to know how he can spot the pea zombies versus the humans.
Well, I think that's one half of the thing, right? Is if this is his view, it's the zombie has the same moral value he does, but a god tier, super sentient creature that looks like a bunny, that thing has no moral value. Just the best thing.
Yeah, it's so hilarious.
Just no moral value. The only thing that's consequential with moral value is whether it looks.
Well, yeah, it's funny because it denies value to beings that obviously should have value, and then the other half, like you said, is that it gives value to beings that just obviously shouldn't have value.
Yeah, which is why I'm just taking him to giving me a descriptive causal explanation.
Yeah, the ones that have dual consequences like this. The other day someone said that the trait is having a single member of your species be above a certain level of intelligence, which obviously means if we engineer a single super sentient blade of grass, lawn mowing is just this global holocaust. If all humans are disabled, then it's fine to holocaust infinite disabled people.
Wait, someone actually ran species maximalization?
Yeah, and the funniest part, he was trying to also run something about essential properties. So he said that in the world where there's no smart humans, he said that its species maximality is also an essential property for being human. So he ended up having to say that if we have two possible worlds and we have the disabled people from this world and then we transport them into another possible world and we just don't transport any smart people there, that in one world they're humans and in the other they aren't.
So just I don't even know how people could possibly begin to start abusing language in that way. It's so clear that what they're doing is just pure sophistry.
It's truly hilarious. Speaking of sophistry, rational sophist, you should try to answer Bryn.
Oh, so what I basically used so basically my criteria for moral value in the instance of factory farms is it has to be or human, which I will try to define after the essay finish the sentence, or have the intelligence level of the average human, or be able to give birth to humans.
Okay, look. We're gonna ignore the second and the last one because those ones are just insane. Not being able to give birth to humans means that women who are infertile suddenly no longer have moral value, and things that have less intelligence than the average human just means someone with a 99 IQ is perfectly holocaustable. But let's move on to the first one because that one seems to be where you're just gonna be really tricky. Again, this is the third time I've asked you to define that specific criteria. Because
one thing. It doesn't have to have all three traits, only one of the three, and then I evaluate it.
No, I'm aware. The problem is the problems with each of those. It's never gonna be great. If it's the case, right, that it's a person with 99 IQ who has a slight deviation in human DNA who's also infertile, that means that that's like perfectly holocaustable. It's like if your mom had like a genetic like issue, like let's say your mom like gets like blasted with like radiation, so much that her DNA is like no longer differentiable from like chimpanzee DNA because of how similar our DNA is. And she's also infertile, and also your mom only has like an IQ of like 99 point. Then it sounds like what you're okay with doing is just like holocausting your mom.
Yeah.
Which is just so... Wait, you're enthusiastically okay with just holocausting your 99.9 IQ mom that got zapped with radiation?
If the other traits apply, like the DNA no longer being differentiable from the chimpanzee, then yes. And you're gonna say
Yeah, so it's got 98% human. It's got a 99.9, and it's just consequentially unable to have
yes.
that thing. Is
yes. And you're gonna say.
do you know? Do you understand how like fucking insane that?
Yeah, this just leads to saying that it's fine to holocaust infinite disabled minds. Like, that's crazy.
Well, not even disabled. It's sub-average. So it's 99.9 IQ. It's like
this just leads to saying it's fine to holocaust the minds of half the population.
Yeah, exactly. It's half. Well, it's not gonna be half necessarily because of like how.
Isn't it roughly a belt?
Well, roughly, right? But you know, different
whatever.
population.
The difference between saying it's fine to holocaust the minds of half or roughly half the population.
Yeah. It's gonna be roughly half the population is okay to just kill. But this is like completely foregoing like the existence of pain in these creatures, or like will to live, or like familial structures, or like pure happy.
It's hilarious. Well, the thing is, like, when you walk down the street, like, every other person you see is presumably below the average IQ, or something roughly like every other person you see. So, like, you're just saying that if, like, every other person in the world basically just got, like, their minds, like, uploaded into a computer or something, and then we, like, multiply their minds to infinity, it would just be fine to just, like, infinitely holocaust that half the population. Like, that's a crazy position.
But the thing is, like, you can say this reductio ad absurdum, but the thing is, like, people...
I think virtually everyone's going to agree that what Bryn and I have pointed out about your position is just insane. Like, you can hold that if you want to and be consistent, but if you think that you're going to persuade anyone arguing a position like that, you're a lunatic.
Like, look, it's not like a reductio ad absurdum in that we've derived some kind of contradiction with some kind of like objective feature of the world. I'm not going to give you the argument for like objective morality on the spot. What I'm showing you is that what you just said is that it's perfectly complacent to just like kill in the same way that we kill cows, like charitably, like a third of the population.
Yeah, like the whole idea is like a reductio is going to be better and better. The more at odds with the deepest values of the most people it is, right? So if you have something that virtually everyone's going to look at and say that is like hugely offensive to my sensibilities, that's just like, I mean, that's what a good moral reductio is, right? It doesn't have to be that it's inconsistent. In fact, sometimes showing a contradiction isn't even as strong as certain reductios. Like, there's reductios that lead to like certain specific actions being worse that actually strike people as worse than contradiction.
What's really funny though is that given his moral view, he's perfectly fine to Holocaust.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm a bit...
Like INTJ, how do you feel about the fact that your triple theory justifies your death?
It doesn't.
Well, it does, because you said, you know, something that's never...
Okay. And even Bryn's making a cheeky point. He's saying you're stupid, but if the other people on Earth were just to get smarter, then it would justify killing you.
Yeah, I mean, there could be like some kind of like principle where that happens, but it's like, yeah, I'm just insulting you. I don't know if we have to go down the full explanation of it. Well, but I think that on all 3 points, it's very evident that you don't live up to them.
Well, like, I don't know if he's had a kid yet or like had his sperm test or something, but like, if you were just to find out tomorrow that you're not sterile, your DNA is a little different from the average human, and other people were to get smarter, so you fall below the average, it would be fine to kill you exactly as you are with your current subjective experience. You really accept that? Are you really going to pretend you're okay with that to be consistent?
I would accept that, yes.
Okay.
Like, look, I mean, if you're just running DA, right, and it's just for the memes that you're accepting this, that's fine. But just think about the like insanity of that action and how unintuitive it seems to have to be. Like, think about all the ways in which you can feel pain and pleasure, and the fact that.
Well, I just don't believe him. Like, I don't. When someone says to me that if they found out that their DNA were slightly different and the other people on Earth were smarter and they turned out being sterile, it's just fine to like murder them, like stab them in the throat.
Yeah.
And I just have a hard time believing someone when they say that my life as it is right now just doesn't have enough value to necessarily be worth keeping around. Like, I don't buy it. I think that you're lying. I don't believe that if it just turned out that you couldn't breed, your DNA were a little different, and other people became smarter, that you'd think it's fine to murder you. You can say you're fine with it if you want to just be consistent and insane and whatever, but, you know, anyone here who, you know, doesn't think it's okay for them to just be murdered is going to look at that kind of situation and go, well, I mean, that's nuts. I don't agree with that moral system.
Yeah, so one of my position is probably unusual, but I generally do, I'm generally consistent with my principle.
That's not the point in contention. The point in contention is that it seems like you haven't considered what your principle means. It's like just fucking insane to hold on to the kind of thing that you're holding on to, because it implies that there's just a triviality to your existence, a triviality to most people's existence. Like, you're basically saying that it's completely inconsequential whether or not something can feel, whether or not something is self-aware, whether or not something is metacognitive, whether or not something has like desires to live or desires at all. Like, the fact that you're reducing morality down to whether it can produce humans, when you're leaving human as open as like a vague predicate, and like the fact that it's vaguely defined as the average human intelligence, even though there's like temporal elements to that. Like, it's not like out there's like some definition about the specific average of human intelligence. Like, that's something that's changed over time. Like at best, right? And what I'm taking you to be doing is be giving me some kind of like descriptive explanation for the fact, rather than like an ideal prescriptive notion. But if this is your ideal prescriptive notion, like, it's just so insane, and that's what we're seeking you on. Is that I think it's pretty evident that most people aren't going to want to accept a theory that like is open to holocausting something like 3 billion.
And where there is no basis for value that can be located anywhere in their own actual experience.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like it's completely irrespective of subjectivity. That's my favorite part. It's just like it's a complete reduction down to the breeding capacity and like intellectual contents of like something.
Well, and it's also...
That's like IQ is purely defined on like cognitive capabilities, not on subjective capabilities. So like P-zombies are...
Yeah, and I mean, it would be just like flatly rejected on like all the main ethical theories too. Like, this obviously wouldn't maximize utility, just like genociding half the people. Certainly not gonna be, you know, in line with any kind of rights model. So it's just crazy.
Like, it's like there's not even a virtue there. It's not even like that. It's like, it's so wishy-washy that it's not even reducible down to some dumb virtue like being like altruistic.
It's just hilarious, because the attitude most people have is like, if I found out I had different molecules in my body, like, that wouldn't go anywhere towards like it being okay to murder me.
No,
if
of
I
course
found
not.
out I were sterile, that wouldn't go anywhere towards saying that it's okay to murder me. And if other people became smarter, that wouldn't go anywhere towards saying it's okay to murder me. Unless you think people are actually going to agree with those kind of, like, really fucking insane thoughts, like, I just don't know why you'd ever expect anyone to be persuaded by your position. And unless you think that people actually would believe that you hold this position, I don't even see why you'd bother pretending to hold it. I don't believe that you hold this for a second. I think you're just lying.
Yes, but I'm fundamentally...
I think that you probably came up with this position thinking that it's not going to justify murdering you. And then you realized it actually could justify murdering you, and you're just planting your feet in. I highly doubt you're actually fine being murdered. I think that the amount of people who are fine being murdered is extremely low, so the probability that you're lying is just extraordinarily high.
Oh, I actually did anticipate this reductio. Like, I watched some of your debates and the Stefan Malino one, so I did actually anticipate this. And the thing is, I am actually really consistent with this free
So he watched the video, like, sat there thinking about this, and he was like, you know what? Yeah, if I woke up tomorrow and I was in a sheep's body, you know what? I'd be okay with, like, getting fisted in the ass and then, like, having my throat.
You don't even have to go to a sheep's body, though. Like, I mean, that would still be a brutal reductio, but, like, it could just be the case that he's in the same body, but there's some small, you know, genetic change that makes him not classified as a human. Like, say he just has different DNA or something. There's no reason that wouldn't be logically possible.
He's being super wishy-washy with the definition of...
Well, and earlier
I'm just skipping a stage and just saying, like, it's... Well, let's just take something trivially, like...
Earlier I heard him doing something that you would have shut down very quickly, but he was trying to run some kind of argument about how it's not possible for there to be human genes and animal genes in a human body, but he obviously just doesn't understand the difference between like physical possibility, logical possibility. It's obviously not something logically impossible, aka like contradictory about that.
Yeah, and I mean, gene types are pretty similar across species. The specific differences in species are called phenotypes. Yeah, he could certainly point to phenotypes, but he doesn't want to do that because if he points to phenotypes, he's going to be pointing at the actual traits, which are things like sentience and subjectivity, which of course, you know, it's going to be very difficult for him to argue that sentience and subjectivity are not apparent in animals. So instead he has to appeal to this like vague notion of humanity. That's just not going to work ever for him. But saying it's impossible for them to be human DNA in a different creature is just so...
But
I like when people equivocate on the kinds of possibility, it's so infuriating.
yes, but you value sentience because you care, because of empathy, right, for animals. Yeah, but
Because because I take the constructivist view of ethics, so I think that there's a strong argument that what is relevant to morality is the particular relevant feature. So it's like the concept of pain is reducible down to, well, pain is just an emergent state on what we would call like a negatively wrong situation where like nociception is going off or something like that. And so it's necessarily the case that pain is bad. It's just definitional.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I understand. Or just like assuming that. So.
But what Askerself and I were laughing about is that what you're actually rejecting is that like things like qualia or the actual experience of something are relevant to the actual like notion. So for example, on your view, right, if it weren't the case that we were talking about humanity, you were just talking about like, you know, instead of pain being relevant, it'd have to be like some natural state, like kicking is wrong, but that would be immoral to like kick rocks. So that's why it's really dumb to reduce things down to natural physical states, rather than to talk about these things in terms of the emergent properties like pain or other subjective properties. You know, like what does it mean for a rock to be happy? But, you know, it's pretty evident that what we mean by happy in humans is like some state of well-being for that mind. So when you offer this like triple theory that completely like ignores subjectivity, not only does it leave you open to just being holocausted, and it also allows things like P zombies to have as much moral value as you have. It just seems to completely fly in the face of like pretty much any intuition about morality. But it seems like what we're doing is having just a categorical difference in the kind of discussion we're having. It seems like what I'm asking you for is some kind of ethical theory, and what you're giving me is just some kind of causal explanation of your actions, which I'm not interested in.
Yes, I should have been more specific, and not really being categorically deviating in terms of like not giving you my ethical theory.
Yeah, but that was the question on the table, right? What we're asking you for is the ethical justification for eating animals. We're not asking you like, why in terms of like the physical laws. Like, we're not asking you to explain how we got from the Big Bang to sophists eating a piece of meat. We're asking you, like, assuming like free will and assuming, an action and the ability for not doing that action, what are the reasons we might choose to do the action or not?
Oh, okay.
So it's a conceptual argument, not a descriptive. It's just not interesting to me, like the descriptive case for how. What I'm asking you for is prescriptively, what should and shouldn't we do?
So, like, you want to know my normative ethical system?
Yeah, that's what they've been asking you this entire time.
Right. Yeah, I don't really value sentience, like I say. It's just like...
Well, what do you take sentience to mean? Like, let's not let that term escape from us, which is why I was specifically using subjectivity. Like, what we're specifically talking about seems to be like what the event is and the mental state surrounding it. That seems to be relevant to ethics rather than just like the kind of physical.
I guess, yeah. I would agree. Like, my position is really weird, and
like, for example, if there was you, and then there's a copy of your body, but without a mind, that doesn't have the capacity for qualitative states. So, like, pain isn't a thing it has, it's just like a robot, basically. You presumably wouldn't say that you have the same moral value. Presumably, if I had a gun and I was firing at one or the other, you would presumably think that, I should fire at the robot.
in that particular instance, probably not.
You don't think that you're differentiable from a robot? You don't think that you have qualitative states? Like, you don't think that there's anything like what it is to be you? Like, you don't have a mind?
Do you mean like a sentient robot or just a robot? Like, not AI?
Just a robot, like just physical states that seem to emulate you, but aren't in any way.
In that case, I would be more valuable than the robot, in my opinion. Yes.
Yeah, so that's why we don't want to reduce down our moral notions to simple natural states or physical states that you have, where it's based on the breedability and the IQ and the genetic code thing. That's why it seems like in almost every major ethical theory, the relevant features are things like the subjective experience or the intention of the mental. So, for example, like under like a consequentialist view, it seems like what's relevant are the consequences of an action and how they relate to our mental. On a deontological view, it seems like what matters is the kinds of actions that we might do. And it seems like under like a virtuous view, it's the kinds of like meta mental states that we're in that matter. But it would be insane, right, to say that kicking a robot and kicking you are the same thing, or kicking a rock and kicking you are the same thing. So we can't just reduce it down to some kind of physical state. And so what's relevant seems to be the capacity for things like pain. And it seems like capacity, but the pain capacity is just an intrinsically normative notion. And so it's necessarily what we mean by pain that something is bad. But it seems like if that's what we're getting to now, and we're ignoring, some kind of descriptive explanation for why you eat meat, like for example, just that you sort of do, or that it's sociological or dietary that you eat meat, it seems like the real question that we're asking is, what are the kinds of evaluations we could make about slicing a cow's throat open? And if you go watch videos of cows' throats being sliced open, it seems like the cows probably have something that we would call pain. They don't really seem to enjoy it. It seems like their behavior is very similar on like a folk psychological level to how human actions are.
Oh yeah, I did watch Dominion, but things like that don't really evoke an emotional reaction in me personally. Like, I do get a very minor emotional reaction when I watch human suffering, but it's very minor and probably not much.
Right, but I'm not asking you for some kind of emotional account. I'm asking you, idealistically speaking, whether or not what we should be doing is stabbing cows. Whether or not there is a moral or immoral evaluation there, rather than what seems to be the case, which is some kind of test that it's simply amoral.
Yeah, but you mentioned like the fundamental idea is that it's kind of, you mentioned like valuing pain and subjective experience, qualia, things like that. I do value animals in other instances, but when food production is concerned, they have to have the three values for me to value them. The three things the three tiered theory.
Yeah, but see that's the problem though, is that because you've reduced it down to just these physical features, it's trivial to create some kind of scenario where you're holocausting like people with 99.9 IQ who just coincidentally are sterile, and coincidentally have been like undergone radiation, and so have like 97% DNA similarity to the average human. And so it seems like you're relatively open to killing a very large gamut of creatures, which not only would we say are very clearly, but also probably very clearly moral, with subjective experiences. And so if you're just giving me if you're not giving me a descriptive account anymore, it seems insane to say that the relevant features of food production are that it births humans. It just seems completely unrelated when, it's very clear that the kind of question we're asking and the reason we're asking it is related to the kind of subjective experiences the things that we kill have. Most people seem to trivially think that plants don't have subjective experiences. We don't have any reason to suspect they do. And so it's a category error to even ask the moral question about them, because the kind of thing that's related to stabbing is pain. That's the sort of thing that we actually have in question. And so given that cows very clearly feel pain, there has to be some kind of principle for the distinction between cows and humans in space. And to simply reduce it down to birthing humans leaves, infertile 99.9 IQ human beings with a slight amount of radiation damage open to being killed in factory farming. Which, you can hold to remain consistent with your animal condition, or it's, very easy to just say, wow, that seems kind of dumb. Yeah, it does seem like the relevant feature is in fact. And it seems like in the face of the fact that it's incredibly simple to just go vegan, that what we should be prescriptively doing is minimizing the amount of animals that we kill in the way that...
Okay, I will think about my this reductio with respect to me not valuing animal pain in the context of factory farms. I'll consider it and think about it.
Nice.
That was pretty good. How did Bryn get him out of that self-awareness argument? Because I only heard like human after that. Human though.
Yeah, like he was talking about how this guy, like, he can't prove that like humans have self-awareness, so he gives like a benefit of the doubt to, I can't remember if this was Bryn or the guy from before, like Bleachy or something. He was talking about how this guy gives the benefit of the doubt to humans, even though he can't prove their self-awareness, but he doesn't do the same thing for animals because like the evidence that he wants for animals to prove that animals are sentient or self-aware, he doesn't hold that same standard for humans. I don't know if I said that clearly. Did you get that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
And yeah, you were right. It was Bleachy.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember if Bryn was saying something about that or not.
Let them up!